gals, Insomnia from unrealtek.net, a division of BlenderTek.com again. Today I'm going to show you how to make a vehicle work in UE4. And if we have time, we'll get it replicated. But at the very least, we'll get it enterable, executable, and drivable. So open your project and let's get started. I found this nice public domain model of a Jeep and it needed some work for backface culling. So I just kind of did some quick and dirty work to get it working this morning. And I rigged it up this morning as well, and I'll be releasing it when I do the next update for the project download, since it's public domain, so I'll release this entirely. So how you rig a vehicle, I just want to go over the basics really quickly. You're going to want a bone for your body, so we have a body bone here, and then you're going to want bones that aren't connected to anything, but that are in they're basically perpendicular to your wheels, so they're in the axis of rotation, so as if they were actual axles. And you want them to be centered. Now these wheels are off center, so they kind of wiggle a little bit, but it's not a big deal. And so you want one for each wheel, and you want them to be called the same as the wheel mesh that they are referring to. So this bone, for example, is wheel underscore F, uppercase FL for front left, and that that's weighted to this wheel here, which is called exactly the same, wheel underscore FL. And so once you've created all four bones, as you can see, they are not attached to anything. The body's only attached to the root bone. What you want to do is then weight everything. I take all the body's vertices and I go into the vertex groups and I assign it with full weighting to the body bone, and then I do that for each wheel. So I would take, for example, the front left wheel, I would take all of its verts, I would go and find wheel front left, and I would assign, and then do it for the next one. I would go wheel front right and assign with full weight for each one, and in the end what you get is the ability, you can see it picked up some extra verts somehow, but either way you get the ability to spin your wheels. And so I've gone ahead and exported this to FBX, and I've imported it, and I just applied some basic textures that were in the project already. So we get this result, we get a nice little Jeep here. And so that is pretty basic. You don't need to do anything special except for in the physics asset. I'm going to go over that. So this is the result you need. This is most definitely not how it will end up. So there's a few important things, kinematics and bodies, that we need to go over. So what I do is I delete every single body so that everything is not bold. Then I select all the wheels. I go right click and add new body. I select a sphere and OK, and that'll automatically create perfect spheres for my wheels to have physics bodies for. Then each wheel, you need to go to physics type and select kinematic, because they're going to be kinematically driven by the animation blueprint. So select each one, and under physics type select kinematic. That's very important. Then for the body, it needs a body. I like to choose a box, since most vehicles are boxy, and hit OK. And it's going to be kind of out of proportion usually, so I like to set it up nicely, you know, bring it back a little, do some scaling, something along these lines, and it probably needs to be rotated this way too, because I practiced this beforehand, because I haven't done any vehicles since the Mega Jam. I did the monster truck entry. So yeah, you have that in the end basically. Actually, I could probably move that or scale that forward since we have the front bumper as well. I didn't think about that. So yeah, something like that. Then you can just hit save. This one doesn't need to be kinematic, it can be default. And your root bone, it doesn't need to have any body or anything. So yeah, you can save that and you're good to go to the next step. So I'm gonna go to my content folder. I'm gonna create a new folder called animations, because eventually we're going to need player animations as well. I'm going to need to come up with a character. So I'm going to make a new folder called vehicles. Just like I'm going to set this to orange and set this to orange. I put that Jeep under meshes, vehicles, Jeep, just so you're aware if you're following along. And so animations, vehicles, and then I'm going to make an animation blueprint like so. And make sure you select vehicle anim instance. By default, it will select anim instance if you select none. So make sure you select vehicle anim instance. That's, we have the wheel handler node. Then select your skeleton, Jeep skeleton, and hit OK. We're gonna go anim BP underscore Jeep. It's an incredibly hard anim blueprint. You need 3 whole nodes. You need a mesh space ref pose. So this gives us the component's pose reference in the meshes space. Then we need a wheel handler for wheeled vehicle, skeletal control node, and then you simply need component to local. So this takes each wheel's component space and converts it to local space. So those 3 nodes are all you need to have a driven vehicle. So that is your animation blueprint. So all you gotta do is hit compile and save, and that's your anim BP. Now we can go to blueprints and we can make a new folder, and we'll call this vehicles. And I'll make a new folder called Jeep. And I'm gonna make a new blueprint class. I'm gonna search for wheel. I'm gonna go under pawn, has a subclass called wheeled vehicle. So wheeled vehicle inherits from pawn. I'm gonna select that. I'm gonna call this BP underscore Jeep. And I'm gonna save. Before that, we need some more things, however. So I'm gonna go back to the vehicles folder, and we have a few things we're gonna need to create first. We're gonna need wheel blueprints. So let's right click, create blueprint class, and search for wheel. We're gonna need a vehicle wheel blueprint. So I'm gonna select it once. I'm gonna go BP underscore, or yeah, I'm just gonna call this I'm gonna go STD for standard wheels front, and then I'm gonna duplicate that, and I'm gonna go wheels back. That's because front wheels need to steer, so that's why you need 2 different ones. I'm gonna save those, and you also need a friction value for your tires. So we're gonna right click, we're gonna go to miscellaneous data asset, we're gonna choose tire type and select, and then we're just gonna call this std underscore tires and save. And that should be everything we need now. So let's work on the wheels blueprints first. So open them up. They're a data only blueprint, should only open this up. But of course mine always bugs out. So anyways, what we're gonna need first is the collision mesh is just fine, but you're gonna see you have a wheel. Now you can offset it from where you created your bones if you need the collision, like the actual wheels, to be out further. Now you got to remember, the wheels that you see in your mesh, those are just visual. That's not actually where the physics are going to act on. The physics are actually going to act on wherever if we go into the skeleton here, wherever the bone ends. I actually might have these backwards, and this is actually going to turn into a mess. I'm gonna have to re-import that. I never realized, or I'll just offset it. So yeah, you can see I have these backwards. They should be sticking way out at the wheel's end. That is where the wheels will sit, and so this will actually be a good example. This thing's gonna be like the wheels are right at the center, and it's gonna fall over. So you can offset it here if you need to make it wider or shorter wheelbase. But these invisible wheels on this collision mesh is where the physics will actually happen. You'll need a radius. I didn't measure it, so I'm just going to go with the stock values and width. You can use a mass and everything else. And we don't want the front wheels to be affected by the handbrake, so we're going to uncheck that. The steer angle, 70 is quite a lot. I'm going to go more like 45 or maybe 60. I find that 70 is quite high. In fact, yeah, I'll stick with 60. And our tire type, we need to choose one. We only have one, which is standard tires. And the rest of this is pretty much fine as it is. So we're going to compile and save. And we're gonna go back and go to the back. You can see it's data only, so this one opened up fine. In here, the steer angle we want to be 0, and we're going to choose our standard tire type again, and the rest should be fine again. And we want it to be affected by the handbrake, so let's compile and save. And our tire type, so you have a friction scale, so how much friction the tires have. I'm just going to bump it up to 3 so that we don't really have much slippage, or you can just leave it at stock, it doesn't really matter, I'll leave it at stock. So now we can go to our actual blueprint. So if we go to the view part, as you can see, we have nothing. We do have a vehicle movement component and a mesh component, however, which are inherited. So if you choose your mesh, and then you want to select your skeletal mesh for your vehicle, which is, in our case, our Jeep. Now I have this funny selection thing going on that's looking kind of annoying, so I think I'm going to turn that off. If I can remember where that is. Let me see if I can turn that off here. Give me a... It was selection highlight intensity. Alright, so we have our Jeep here, blah da 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 da, and we need to choose our animation blueprint, so anim BPG. So that is good to go. I'm going to turn off real time just because I'm recording. So the first thing that we're going to need is a camera. So let's add a camera. So this is going to be the vehicle's camera. And I like to put it on a spring arm, so I'm going to add a spring arm. So let's set this up roughly where the driver would be sitting, because eventually we're going to set it up so we can see everyone. I find the length about 600 for standard size vehicles. I haven't checked if this is standard size or not yet. I've just roughly guessed on the size, but it looks about right with a length of 600. And then we want, what do we want? We want to enable camera rotation lag, and the lag speed of, I believe, 3 looks pretty good. And we also need to rotate it up, so we want to rotate it something like 10 degrees, I think I've found is nice. So then we'll take our camera and parent it to that. You'll see it'll snap right to the end. Let's give it 0 offset in the location, and in the rotation we want it about 5 degrees, so it points down a little bit. We may need to change that a little bit, but we'll see. That should be fine. Camera settings. Yep, we should be good to go. Now we need to set up our vehicle. So let's go to vehicle movement, and we need a wheel setup. As you can see, it creates 4 by default, and it just chooses these basic wheels. So first of all, bone names. So we need to replace that with the names of our bones. So we have wheel front left, wheel front right, wheel rear right, wheel front left, or rear left, sorry. And the mass of the vehicle, I tend to leave this all default unless I'm really tweaking. There's lots of stuff you can do in here. I don't even know what a lot of it does. I don't think anyone really does. So we need to choose our wheel class. So for the front, we want our front wheels. And for the back, we want our back wheels. And if they ride in the air, that means that our size is too big. And obviously, inversely, if they dig in the ground, that means that our wheels are too small. So that'll help you in sizing it. We have a torque curve for our engine. The standard values are pretty good. You can adjust it if you're making some sort of special vehicle, which we will eventually. Yeah, we want 4-wheel drive, and you can set up a fancy transmission if you want. I find everything's fine just the way it is. If you want engine audio, you need to add an audio component that is driven by these RPMs, and we'll get to that at some point, but I'm not going to worry about that today. That'll be more of a polished thing. And I think that is all we need for the moment. So we can compile and save, and we can drop it in a level to see if it actually sits on its wheels or not, which I'm 99% certain it's not, and that I got those bones in the wrong direction. So we were working on the third person example map, I believe. So we can take our Jeep and we can drop it in there. Yeah, it's a nice size. You can see the camera view is pretty nice too, and we can hit play. And where the heck did it go? I also have no control. Interesting. I believe that would be our game mode. No. Oh, it's because I need to re-add all the input controls. That would be why, because I accidentally deleted all those. So let's add, well, I'm going to add those back in under project settings input. You can see I have absolutely none. They got deleted when I was changing versions. Alright, so I've got all the input working in, and as you can see when we hit play, our Jeep goes wonkers. So yeah, that's definitely got to be something to do with the wheels. And if we wanted, I believe at this date we can still select the default pawn to be the Jeep, and we can actually take control of it, and you can see it's going crazy. Something's wrong with the wheels, obviously. So I'm going to re-export the skeleton with them where they should be and see if that fixes it quickly. Okay, I finally got something working somewhat. So I did have to flip the directions of the bones, and then I recreated the wheels, and instead of on the body creating the body, I put it on the root like so. And so now when I hit play, I land on a static mesh actor just like I should. Before the wheels were falling through. And if we eject, it looks like our wheels are pretty much the right size in the front, but not in the back. So I'm gonna quickly look at that. So if we go to our front is 50, back is 30, so we want about 50, and I went and measured it. My wheels are 99 centimeters in diameter, so a radius of 50 should be right. So now we can set up our actual blueprint for simple movement as our next step. So let's set up our throttle first. So we'll go input axis forward, or move forward rather, so that's W and S. We'll take the axis value, which is either plus or minus based on that, and we will set throttle input on our vehicle movement component, like so. Perfect. And then we will do input axis move right, which is A and D, and for that we will set steering input. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this vehicle movement and I'm going to use it for both of them just to keep things clean. Could even move that up one if I wanted, I suppose. And then we need our handbrake, so I'm just going to use jump, because that's bound to space. So on jump, when pressed, we set handbrake input to true, and when released, we set it to false. Alright, so that is the basics of it. So let's save and see. So we can move forward and backwards with handbrake, and we can see our wheel steering. And it doesn't have very good off-road abilities at the moment, but it does drive. And we obviously need to change our collision axis, but for a vehicle, this is actually pretty good. Usually you have to do a lot of experimentation to get the physics working just right in Unreal. But it's actually working very well. But obviously, we don't see a character, so that'll be something we need to take care of. So I'm thinking the first thing we should work on is making it enterable, so that we can actually walk up and enter it. So we'll leave that one there, and we'll change our default pawn back to our base character and make it so that one isn't automatically possessed. So right now we're a character, it sits there, but we can't walk up to it and press E to enter it. That's actually a good size. So let's change that. So the first thing we're going to need to do is set up an interact button. I believe we had one before, but if not, just project settings. And then we want to go to input, and we want to add an interact, which I believe we had bound to E, which would be most obvious. And so we'll use that as enter and exit vehicle. And I always suggest when you add a new configuration, just as I'm doing, to export it in case it ever gets deleted when you need to delete all your intermediate folders. So I'm just going to replace input backup December 12th here. So that'll be for entering and exiting the vehicle's interact. So let's open our BP Jeep again. So let's just do this. This will be stock input dash movement. Let's go ahead and first of all, you can go to class defaults, make sure it replicates movement. It doesn't need to be totally relevant, at least we assume not yet. We'll find out later. If we added a weapon directly to it, it would, but most likely we're gonna spawn weapons on top of vehicles. But certain vehicles such as tanks, most likely we would need them to be relevant because they would have weapons, and we will do some tracked vehicles. They're kind of fun. So we're gonna go on input action interact. What we're gonna want to do is a switch auth when that's pressed. So let's go switch auth. And if you are remote, then we need to call a custom event, which will be called server exit vehicle. And we'll probably put this in a base class later so that we can use this for all our vehicles, but for now I'm just going to leave it on the Jeep since this will be the only vehicle for a while unless everyone requests something for some reason. So remote, we're going to call that event server exit vehicle. And that is going to run on server, and it's going to be reliable. And so what's going to happen when we exit the vehicle currently is we're going to spawn an actor from class. Oops, wrong one. Wrong one again. Just go spawn actor from class. And that is going to be our base character. And this will be just kind of a simple setup for now. Later we'll go on where we don't actually have to destroy and repossess players and such, because that will most likely ruin our scoring setup and the like. We're going to want to always spawn, try to adjust location, but always spawn. And we're going to want to take the transform and split it. And so we're spawning the character, and we need to set up the location first of all. So we're going to want to do a vector plus vector. And so what we're going to want to do is take the vehicle mesh and we're going to want to get world location. We're also going to want to get rotation, get world rotation. We're going to want to get right vector. Actually, we need a replicated variable. Sorry, we want to get relative rotation here. That's a replicated variable by default, and we want to get its right vector. And then we want to and we're actually going to need to split that, so let's split both these struct pins and combine them like so. I'm going to take this return value, we're going to multiply it by a float, which is going to be about -200 or so. We are going to plug this into the plus and then the world location into the top. So that's our location. And the rotation, we'll need to worry about the yaw, so that'll be the yaw here. So that can plug, we need to split that pin too. Yaw, like so. Interesting. Decided that's straight. Alrighty. So let's see if we can't just bring this in a little bit and comment it. So set spawn location for base car when exiting Jeep. And then what we need to do after that is obviously we're gonna want to wait just a split second to make sure it spawns, since we have to worry about network traffic and stuff. So we'll take like a half second, and then we will get the controller. So we're controlling this pawn, and then we will possess that pawn. And the end pawn is the return value there, so our base character. Like so. Alright, so wait for network safety, then repossess car. And if you're the authority, then all we do is we go straight to the logic there. So this is for leaving the vehicle and spawning player. If on server, we execute logic. If on client, we execute on server. Next, we need to create an interaction area for our vehicle. So if we go into the viewport, we can add a collision box or sphere or capsule or whatever you prefer. And I'm gonna move this, let's see here. I'll bring it up to this side. I'm gonna scale it up quite a bit though. So basically when you come near the vehicle on the driver's side. Currently the driver's on that side, but that's alright. Let's make it either side, why not? If I can remember what buttons scale. Like so. So that'll be interact volume. So we can go back to our event graph now and do our work for that. So we want on component overlap, begin overlap, that is, interact volume. What we want to do is go into a branch. We want to create a variable called b can be entered. So can this vehicle be entered? Because we're going to want to be able to set if that is certain vehicles can or cannot be maybe at certain times. So we're going to want to compile. By default that'll be true, but maybe certain vehicles, certain classes can't, maybe, for example. That'll be a boolean and it'll be replicated. We want it to be editable and we want it to be under config. Let's go under config. So we go into a branch, we check that condition, and if true, then we cast to BP base character. We want an impure cast, and what we want to cast in is the other actor, so obviously that would be a character overlapping, and we want to get a reference to self, and then we need to set a reference in our base character to this vehicle. So let's go to blueprints, base character. Let's create a new variable called current vehicle, and this will be since we don't have a base class, this will just currently be BP Jeep reference, and we want that to be replicated, so that'll be good. So we can compile and save that for now. Save everything just to be safe. So yeah, now we can set current vehicle to a reference to self, like so. And then on component and overlap, if I select that again, on component and overlap, what we want to do is we want to do the same thing, cast the BP base character imp here. We want to cast the other actor, and then we want to go into a branch where we check if, let's bring this out here, if self, and go a little bit further, if self is equal, double equal. Apparently you can't do that, so let's just do object equal. Okay, apparently not. Well then, let's just go off of here and get current vehicle. We want to see if that is equal. Just put it on the bottom to self. That's our condition. If true, set current vehicle. Right, I need a wire, so let's rewrote this sucker. Set current vehicle to nothing, so just empty, essentially null when we exit. And then when this vehicle's possessed, so on event possessed, then we cast to BP player controller imp here, and we cast in the new controller, and we set can be entered to false. That way no one else can enter the vehicle as well when we're driving it. And on event unpossessed, we just do the inverse. So set it to true, it can be entered again. So ensure vehicle can't be entered when a player is driving. Let's bring that down a little bit. So this sets this vehicle to current vehicle in base car when in interaction volume. Alrighty. Now we need to do entering the vehicle, which we will do on the character. So I'm going to make a new graph for this, which I'm going to call vehicle graph. Let's keep things organized. The more graphs, the better. So we're going to do, actually we're going to want a separate input for this. I think that would make things easier. So let's go to, wrong one. Edit project settings, input, let's go enter vehicle, and let's do F. That's a pretty standard one in games. I'm going to export again. Alright, so input action, enter vehicle. We do a switch off. And if remote, we go into a sequence. In which the first thing we do is server enter vehicle. So we create a custom event. I hate that new event. And we want server enter vehicle, and this is going to execute on server. It's going to be reliable, and it's going to go into a branch. And also, if we're authority, we're just going to go straight into this logic. Its condition is going to be, first of all, an AND boolean. We're going to check if the current vehicle B can be entered, get its value. We need to make sure that's true, and we need to make sure it's valid, that there is an actual car, so our vehicle, so we do up here is valid. And we also, if true, sorry, then we need to get controller again. And then we do a possess of that car, or of current vehicle rather. So we can throw that up there maybe. And then we want to destroy our player. And again, that's gonna cause issues, I think, with our setup, so we'll have to come up with a better setup, but I'm just doing this kind of as a one-time deal just to get a vehicle in the game. So then we're gonna want to delay just a split second, a half second, and then we're gonna want to destroy actor. And so if we are the remote, the first one goes into the branch. First of all, we do server enter vehicle. So handle entering vehicle and destroying base car is what that does. So we can give that a try, compile and save and hit play. And so we spawn and there's that car sitting there. So we can go up to it, we can press F to enter, and you can see it destroys our player. And once I get an animation done, I'll do an actual, oh, we kind of got stuck there, an enter vehicle animation. Okay, well, we're stuck, but you can see how that worked. And E to exit the vehicle. Let's try that one more time. So we can enter from either side, we can drive around, and then we can exit with E, just like so. Let's check the replication. Let's play with 2 players. So I'll set this up so we can see that kind of in the background. Alright, so player enters, drives around, the car is moving, and then we exit, and there he is again. Yeah, so since the client can see that, we should be good. So we have a replicated vehicle in our game and ready to rock and roll. So what we'll do later is we'll turn that into a base class so that all vehicles can be based off of that simple setup. And we'll probably do a tank next. Track vehicles, like I said, are always fun. But yeah, just something different and fun to add in. That we will make a part of the final game when we get there. I want to get these. I want to get the base weapon finished so we can start doing some real weapon stuff. And then I want to get the UI done so that we can create and join servers and do map votes and game modes and teams and classes and stuff like that, and so on and so forth. So thanks for watching from the team at unrealtech.net, division of blendertech.com. If you learned something, please like the video, just subscribe as well. We also take donations. We're on social media on the links on your screen. If you dislike this video for some reason, please tell us why. So we'll see you next time. Remember, create your way.